In the spring of 1967, in the busy University District of Seattle, something happened that no one in that room would ever forget. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, with light rain falling outside and covering the streets in a soft gray mist. Inside a modest training hall on the second floor of a plain brick building, more than 500 people had gathered. The space was only meant to hold 200, yet every corner was filled. Some sat on the wooden floor, others stood against the walls, and a few leaned near the windows just to catch a glimpse of what was about to unfold. They were all there for one reason. They wanted to see Bruce Lee. At the front of the room stood a young man who did not look like what many expected. He was not large, he did not wear a decorated uniform. There were no belts, no symbols, no signs of rank. Just simple black training pants and a plain white shirt, both damp with sweat. He stood barefoot on the wooden floor, relaxed and calm, like someone with nothing to prove. But the moment he moved, everything changed. For nearly 40 minutes, Bruce had been teaching. His voice was steady and clear as he explained a simple idea that many in the room were struggling to accept. He spoke about efficiency. He spoke about removing what is unnecessary. He showed how traditional movements could be slow and predictable. He demonstrated how real combat is not about how something looks, but about whether it works. Beside him stood his student Jesse, a strong and trusted partner who helped him demonstrate each concept. Together they moved with precision, no wasted motion, no extra steps. Every action had a purpose. Half the room watched with admiration. These were his students and supporters. They had trained with him. They believed in what he was teaching. The other half watched with doubt. They had heard about him. They had heard that he was changing things. Some said he was improving martial arts. Others said he was disrespecting tradition. Many had come not to learn, but to judge. The air inside the room was heavy. The windows were fogged from the heat of the crowd. Every breath felt thick. And still, no one left. No one looked away. Bruce continued his explanation. He broke down movements that had been taught for generations. He showed their weaknesses. He questioned ideas that many believed could not be questioned. For some, it was eye-opening. For others, it was uncomfortable. Then it happened. The door opened. The sound cut through the room like a sharp strike. Every head turned at once. The entire space fell silent. A man stepped inside. He was older, likely in his late 30s or early 40s. He wore a traditional kung fu uniform that stood out immediately. It was detailed and carefully made. It carried the look of someone who wanted to be recognized. His posture was straight, his expression was hard. His eyes moved across the room with clear judgment. He walked forward slowly, without speaking. The crowd parted to make space for him. No one stopped him. No one questioned him. The attention in the room shifted completely. Bruce stopped teaching. He watched the man approach, calm and still. The man stopped a few steps away, close enough to challenge, far enough to hold distance. He looked Bruce up and down. The simple clothes, the bare feet, the lack of tradition. There was clear disapproval on his face. Then he spoke. His voice was loud and sharp, first in his native language, then in English so everyone could understand. His words were direct. He accused Bruce of misleading people. He claimed that what was being taught was not real. He said that tradition was being ignored. He questioned Bruce's legitimacy in front of everyone. The air inside the room tightened. The windows were fogged from the heat of the crowd. Every breath felt thick. And still, no one left. No one looked away. Bruce continued his explanation. He broke down movements that had been taught for generations. He showed their weaknesses. He questioned ideas that many believed could not be questioned. For some, it was eye-opening. For others, it was uncomfortable. Then it happened. The door opened. The sound cut through the room like a sharp strike. Every head turned at once. The entire space fell silent. A man stepped inside. He was older,
likely in his late 30s or early 40s. He wore a traditional kung fu uniform that stood out immediately. It was detailed and carefully made. It carried the look of someone who wanted to be recognized. His posture was straight, his expression was hard. His eyes moved across the room with clear judgment. He walked forward slowly, without speaking. The crowd parted to make space for him. No one stopped him, no one questioned him. The attention in the room shifted completely. Bruce stopped teaching. He watched the man approach, calm and still. The man stopped a few steps away, close enough to challenge, far enough to hold distance. He looked Bruce up and down. The simple clothes, the bare feet, the lack of tradition. There was clear disapproval on his face. Then he spoke. His voice was loud and sharp, first in his native language, then in English so everyone could understand. His words were direct. He accused Bruce of misleading people. He claimed that what was being taught was not real. He said that tradition was being ignored. He questioned Bruce's legitimacy in front of everyone. The air inside the room tightened. The windows were fogged from the heat of the crowd. Every breath felt thick. And still, no one left. No one looked away. Bruce continued his explanation. He broke down movements that had been taught for generations. He showed their weaknesses. He questioned ideas that many believed could not be questioned. For some, it was eye-opening. For others, it was uncomfortable. Then it happened. The door opened. The sound cut through the room like a sharp strike. Every head turned at once. The entire space fell silent. A man stepped inside. He was older, likely in his late 30s or early 40s. He wore a traditional kung fu uniform that stood out immediately. It was detailed and carefully made. It carried the look of someone who wanted to be recognized. His posture was straight, his expression was hard. His eyes moved across the room with clear judgment. He walked forward slowly, without speaking. The crowd parted to make space for him. No one stopped him, no one questioned him. The attention in the room.
The circle was set, and the room stood still as more than 500 people watched without a single sound. The air felt heavy, and time seemed to slow as both men faced each other in the center of the wooden floor. One stood rooted in years of tradition, and the other stood relaxed, with no sign of tension. Bruce Lee did not raise his guard in a dramatic way and did not step into any formal stance. He simply stood there, calm and steady, like a man who had already accepted the outcome. Across from him, the challenger adjusted his posture with full confidence. His feet spread wide and his knees bent low as he formed a classic stance that had been practiced for decades. His hands lifted into position with precision and control. Every movement showed discipline and long training. To him, this was familiar ground. This was where he believed he had the advantage. The crowd leaned in closer. Some held their breath without realizing it. Others fixed their eyes on the smallest detail, afraid to miss what was coming next. The tension was clear. This was no longer a lesson. This was a moment that would decide everything. Bruce spoke in a calm voice and explained exactly what he was about to do. He said he would throw one straight punch to the center of the body. No tricks, no hidden movement, just one direct action. The challenger could defend in any way he chose. He had full freedom to block or counter. All he had to do was stop a single strike. To many in the room, it sounded simple, too simple. The challenger almost smiled. In his mind, this was not a real test. It was basic. It was something even beginners practiced. He had spent years defending against attacks far more complex than this. There was no doubt in his mind. He believed this would end quickly in his favor. Bruce asked if he was ready. The answer came with a confident nod. And then it began. Bruce took a small step forward. It was barely noticeable. There was no dramatic motion, no wind-up, no signal that something powerful was coming. It looked almost like nothing had happened. But in that instant, everything changed.
His fist moved. Not in a wide arc, not in a slow build, it moved straight forward with speed that the eye struggled to follow. There was no delay, no wasted motion. It was direct and immediate. The impact landed exactly where he said it would, right at the center of the body. The sound was sharp and sudden, not loud, but clear enough for everyone near the front to hear. It was the kind of sound that made people realize something serious had just happened. The challenger did not block. His hands remained where they were. His stance did not change in time. His body reacted after the strike had already landed. The signal came too late. His training could not catch up to the speed. His eyes widened. His mouth opened, but no words came out. All the air left his body at once. His structure broke. The strong stance that looked so stable only seconds ago collapsed under pressure. His knees weakened, and he stepped back without control. His hands moved to his stomach as his body tried to recover, but it could not. He bent forward, gasping for air that would not come. His breathing stopped for a moment that felt far longer than it actually was. Panic began to show on his face as he struggled to understand what had just happened. Then he dropped to one knee. The room remained silent. No one moved. No one spoke. What they had just seen did not match what they expected. A man with decades of experience had been stopped by a single strike that came without warning and without effort. It was over in seconds. 8 seconds from start to finish. 8 seconds that removed years of belief. 8 seconds that showed the difference between movement that looks correct and movement that works under pressure. Bruce did not celebrate. He did not raise his voice or show pride. He stepped forward calmly and lowered himself beside the man. He placed a steady hand on his back and spoke to him in a quiet tone. His words were not for the crowd. They were for the person in front of him. He told him to relax. He told him the breath would return. He told him he would be fine. The strike had been controlled. It was not meant to harm long term. It was meant to demonstrate a point, and that point had been made clearly. Slowly, the man began to breathe again. At first it was uneven. Then it became deeper. The panic faded, but the realization remained. He stayed there for a moment longer, trying to regain.
The room slowly came back to life, but the silence did not fully disappear, because what had just happened was still settling in every mind. More than 500 people had witnessed a moment that felt simple on the surface, yet carried a deeper meaning that was hard to ignore. Bruce Lee stood calmly beside the man he had just defeated, and there was no sign of pride or celebration in his face. There was no attempt to claim victory. There was only control and awareness of what mattered next. The challenger remained still for a few seconds as he steadied himself, and then he looked up. The expression on his face had changed. The anger that brought him into the room was gone, and in its place was something heavier. It was the realization that everything he believed about his own ability had just been tested in a way he did not expect. Bruce helped him stand. That small action changed the entire mood of the room. Instead of turning away or ignoring him, Bruce treated him with respect. He spoke to him in a calm voice and made it clear that the strike was controlled and that there was no lasting harm. This was not about breaking a person. This was about showing a truth. The man listened. For the first time since he entered the room, he was not speaking to challenge. He was listening to understand. Bruce then did something no one expected. He bowed. Not as a show, not as a performance. It was a real gesture of respect, the kind that is given to someone who has dedicated years to learning, even if they were wrong in that moment. It showed that experience still mattered. It showed that effort was still valued. The challenger was surprised. He had come to expose someone. He expected resistance or conflict. Instead, he was given respect after being defeated. That moment stayed with him more than the strike itself.
Bruce spoke clearly so others nearby could hear. He explained that the form the man used was strong and well-trained. He did not dismiss the years of effort behind it. What he pointed out was something different. He explained that form alone does not guarantee effectiveness in a real situation. He explained that tradition has value, but it must evolve to remain useful. The message was simple. What works matters more than what looks correct. The man lowered his head slightly, not out of shame alone, but out of recognition. He understood that what happened was not luck, it was not a trick, it was the result of a different way of thinking. Bruce then invited him to stay. He told him he was welcome to watch the rest of the seminar and learn if he wished. There was no pressure, no demand, just an open door. The room watched closely. This was the real decision. The man looked around. Hundreds of eyes were still on him. He could leave and protect his pride, or he could stay and face what he had just learned. After a long pause, he made his choice. He walked to the back of the room and sat down quietly among the others. That decision changed everything. For the next 2 hours, he watched as Bruce continued teaching. He observed every movement. He listened to every explanation. The same ideas he had rejected earlier now started to make sense in a new way. Something inside him shifted. Weeks later, he returned. This time, there was no challenge, no loud entrance. He came in quietly and showed respect. He asked if he could train. Bruce accepted him without hesitation. From that point forward, the man trained regularly. He did not speak about his past experience. He did not try to prove anything. He focused on learning. Step by step, he adjusted his understanding. He kept what was useful and let go of what was not helping him grow. Over time, he became one of the trusted students. By the early years of the next decade, he was helping others learn the same principles that he once rejected. His journey became an example of what it means to truly improve. Years later, when people asked him about that day, he gave a simple answer. He said he was not defeated by a strike. He was changed by the way he was treated after it. That moment became more than a story. It became a lesson that spread across training halls and martial arts schools. People talked about the speed of the strike, but they remembered the respect even more. They remembered the calm response. They remembered the choice to teach instead of humiliate. Bruce never used that moment to promote himself. When students asked about it, he gave a direct answer. Anyone can fight. Not everyone can teach. Real strength is not shown by defeating someone. It is shown by helping them improve after the defeat. That idea stayed with everyone who heard it, because it applied far beyond training. It applied to life. It raised a simple question. When you prove your point, what do you do next? Do you break the other person, or do you help them grow? That is where real character is revealed. That day in Seattle was not remembered just because of what happened in 8 seconds. It was remembered because of what happened after.